Hello and welcome to this rubber stamping show and tell, looking at a copy of Rubber Stamp Madness from July, August, the year 2000. That's when kind of there was a lot of momentum in rubber stamping. Before that time, it was, there was, some good amount of kind of momentum and steam building up in this industry. But 2000, I don't know, I tend to think about 2000 as kind of like the heyday in terms of when, I don't know, the different convention entities. There were a lot of, kind of suppliers for things like inks and different accessories came around, and there were a lot of manufacturers, but especially stores were really kind of permeated just in every area of the country and in different parts of the world, and where you can say that you make rubber stamps and someone would know what you're talking about. We were talking about this in a live stream at some point in time recently, and we were talking about, or it might have been in an email where when you explained what you were doing, you were rubber stamping, people didn't know what the heck you were talking about because they hadn't heard of the hobby of rubber stamping, so you had to kind of explain that it wasn't business rubber stamps. Hello, Linda and Bonnie. Just a little, flip through here. I thought I would do this live, just in case anyone wants to chime in on these types of things, but I haven't done one of these for a while, and I thought, that might be kind of fun. We were talking in the live streams, and I don't know, conversation kind of arises, and it gets me a little bit nostalgic. But anyways, Rubber Stamp Madness, it had gone through a couple different incarnations, but they eventually wound up in the standard magazine format here. It probably happened, it happened before this time here, but this is a standard magazine size, as opposed to the earlier tabloid ones, and then it got smaller, and then they had to end up in the standard magazine format because they had to be able to fit on shelves like standard magazine racks. So people that were subscribers and readers of Rubber Stamp Madness, they didn't like change. They liked the old formats, but I understood where they had to go in terms of distribution. So, but anyways, it was a really big magazine before. It was double, like tabloid, and this one's like really thick, but because they had to fit all that content in a smaller format. So anyways, let's take a look here. So here's the crooked path here. One of the fun things about Rubber Stamp Madness was checking out if there were some different images from Stampscapes used throughout the book. And here it is on the cover right here with crooked path and a moon right here. It's interesting. Here's these kind of fairy figures in here that are like super popular these days. Created in 1999 by Beanbag, whoever that is. But a really nice, kind of scenic stamping format here. Rubber Stamp Madness has always been a really good, strong, champion of scenic stamping, because Rubber Stamp Madness, other types of magazines were into card making, okay? Which you can do with scenic stamping, of course, but they're really kind of focused in on the art of rubber stamping, though, as opposed to like constructions and, other types of papers and accessories, that type of thing. It's really been about kind of the motion act of rubber stamping, and scenic stamping's, big on that because of all the imagery that we tend to utilize and incorporate into our stamped pieces more than, say, some other types of, card creation. Hello, Laura. Just a little, show and tell here. A walk down memory lane. I wanted to check out this magazine here. I thought 2000's, a pretty good year for that. Okay, so magenta rubber stamps right here. Double page format right here. This must have been really expensive back in the day. I think I was taking out full page ads at this point in time. And I think one full page ad was like, it was over $1,000 for one full page color ad back in the day. So this thing right here towards the front of the book, I don't know if placement cost any more back then, but I don't know. If you got in that pole position or something like that, they tended to give that to you. As long as you kept up those same sizes of ads. But I'm not sure with this one. I know Stampa Barber had that back page the whole time, but this is I don't know. This is probably a $2,000 to $3,000 ad right here. But back in the day, this was your advertising money. There were other magazines out there, but pretty much everyone that stamped, if they didn't have a subscription to Rubber Stamp Madness, they were probably buying them off the shelf at their local stamp store at some point in time, picking up the odd issue or something like that, because that was really your connection to the stamping world pre-internet, okay? I mean, there were things like Prodigy and AOL, and I guess, well, 2000, now the internet was out there, but not every place had like websites at the time, and there's certainly no social networking. Peddler's Pack right here. This is in Beaverton. Someone brought up that recently on, I think, the Rubber Stamp History group that I started on Facebook. But I taught at this store before. And yeah, I went in there, and one time, the thing that I was surprised at was they made up all of their wood-mounted stamps to order. And I thought, man, that's going to take a long time to do, like cutting out one piece of rubber, mounting it, indexing their wood with it, and then it just would have taken forever to do. But I don't know how many stamps they had in their line, but a really good store, and they were around for quite some time. I don't think they're around. I'm not sure. I forgot what someone said recently. GoCo printers right here. That was like a silk screening printer, like for the home. And this is something that a Stamp in the Hand used to use for their convention buttons that they made for all of the manufacturers or sellers at the convention. So my boss would come up with some sort of design, and it would be usually something like one of our new stamp designs or something like that. But then she would print them up on the GoCo printer and then make buttons out of them. It was a huge amount of work. And then she would, with like a calligraphic style, write the names of everyone that was going to be working in every booth. So they would ask all the sellers at the show to send in like a list of names of everyone that's going to be working in your booth that day. So, we're talking about like 50, 60 booths. Probably at this time it's 60 booths, and you might have, I don't know, 5 to 7 people in each one. So it was a lot of buttons and a huge amount of work. And there were those full-on buttons with that plastic coating on top. So this is Jackson marking right here. A lot of people ask about where can you get like cling foam or something like that, or the cushion that you use to make your wood-mounted stamps. Jackson marking is still out there, and you can still buy a lot of these traditional stamp making supplies out there, the raw materials. And it's not just for businesses, but you can buy them individually. Like you can buy like a sheet of cling. I think if they still have it, these types of things are starting to become more rare as we go on. Okay, this is what is this right here? We are pleased to announce the return of Stampa Barbara. Oh, okay, so Stampa Barbara was closed by then. And it looks like ClearSnap bought them out? I don't remember that. Let me see right here. Yeah, this is a ClearSnap on the back here. So I guess they bought out the Stampa Barbara collection. So Stampa Barbara was the largest retailer of rubber stamps at one point in time. They were a store in Santa Barbara, and then they opened 2 other stores like in the Los Angeles area. But a lot of people used to go on like a pilgrimage, like they were going to Mecca, if you were a rubber stamper, people would travel from all over the country, or what they would do is they would go to the Carson rubber stamp convention, and from LA, that's the Carson area, to Santa Barbara, it'd be like a 2 hour drive or something. And then they would go take classes there. And they had people coming in from all over the place. And that was like the place to go because Santa Barbara was almost like going to a convention in some ways because they carried just about every manufacturer that was out there. As long as you're reasonably well known, but he tried to carry everyone, not their entire line, but he would say, for different companies, just send me 3 or 5 of each of your 20 most popular stamps. And with me, what he started doing was, okay, just anytime you get some new stamps together, new designs, just send me whatever, 5 or 10 of each of them or something like that. And he would distribute them amongst, the different 3 stores. But his main one was up in Santa Barbara. I didn't remember, though, that ClearSnap bought them out. I have no recollection of that. But I don't know what happened to them, that entire line. But Stampa Barbara used to be a company, too, that would buy up. Like, if some company was going out of business, I guess they contacted Gary because he had the funds probably to buy out the lines and to manufacture themselves himself. He never advertised any of those ones. He always advertised his original designs for Stampa Barbara, but because he only sold retail in his stores, he would buy up those companies' designs, probably their plates and everything like that, their molds. And, he can then produce them themselves and sell them in the stores. So he wouldn't have to buy them at wholesale anymore. But he didn't manufacture his own stuff either. He would have other manufacturers make his stamps. So it was almost like he was buying them wholesale. So I don't know. He took a really long time to come in, have a mail order, type of thing, or catalog. He just never did that. And it was just too late, I think, at one point in time. In 2000, I don't remember when he went out of business. Heirloom Productions was the show that we always used to do, or several of them. So Puyallup, Washington, West Springfield, Massachusetts, we would do that one. And then we would do we did Oregon once, Portland, and the Del Mar Fairgrounds. But then they started doing, this is the Texas Art and Rubber Stamp Festival. I think they called this the Grapevine Show, or they turned it into the Grapevine Show, they called it. But Heirloom was kind of the convention that was kind of more of a national type of thing that we would do several shows with, in terms of whatever that national entity goes. But they always put on a really good show. And they closed shop about 4 or 5 years ago, I think. And a lot of these individual shows were sold off to manufacturers in those areas. So there's a couple that are on here, like the York, Pennsylvania one, and I'm guessing what it was they sold their mailing list for those areas. Hello, Tracy. Yeah, I know. Stampa Barbara was awesome, wasn't it? Tracy, which one did you used to go to, or did you used to go to all of them? It's Hot Potatoes right here. Who was the name of the Hot Potatoes owner? It was Mary, right? She was always on a lot on the Carol Duvall show. But the last time I saw her selling at a convention was the Queen Mary show. And I think it was the first Queen Mary show. And I think it's because I just remember her because I think she had a booth right next to mine or something like that. But I think Hot Potatoes, it was fabric and wall stamps. So there were these, I think they were fabric stamps, like sponge stamps. I'm guessing it was something like the Art Foamies now. But she probably just started wholesaling after that. You would see that with certain manufacturers going at retail shows. And then things were, by this time it was like picking up so much steam that you didn't see them at retail shows anymore. And I was assuming that she was just wholesaling at that point in time to, different chains or something like that. You worked at several stamp stores and managed one, so I got. Oh, right. Yeah, Stamp Barb was awesome. That's right, Tracy. Okay, so Sukaneko, we know they're around still, but I looked at this. I just did a really quick flip through of a couple of the first pages right here, and I just used that angel right there in one of my cloud burst pieces. Let me see if I have that right here. Yeah, okay, so see this angel right here. It's just one of those copyright free illustration, spot art books, clip art books that these come out of. So you saw a lot, I don't know about a lot, but several companies making the same old engraving style of images, but it was interesting seeing this one right here. Just because I just happened to use it just, fairly recently. So Versacolor coming out in, I guess that was their big thing right around this time in 2000 right there. Sukaneko, I'm glad Sukaneko's still around, and I hope they remain around because a couple of those inks are like the only thing that I can use on certain types of surfaces. So Brilliance and Stays On being, two of them. So get those inks while you can. With all these things, I just noticed the wood grain paper that I use. At least on Amazon, I don't see it on there anymore. So I hope they're just kind of out of it and they're just waiting to get it back in. But I was checking around on some of those things. It's like, oh my God, there's certain types of papers these days that seem like they're here and gone. So beeswax, always loved their illustration style and techniques. Whoever's doing their designs has always been really good. There's other types of companies that some of these I remember, some of them I don't. A lot of companies were here and gone. Here's Penny Black, of course. They're still around, right? American Art Stamps. Okay, no. He's still on Facebook. He posted in the RubberStamp history group, Robert. And I think he's mostly doing dies or something like that now. Museum of Modern Rubber came up, I don't know, not too long ago. I think it was in the Rubberstamp history group again, talking about, Carmen's Veranda, Elaine, right? She was one half of the Museum of Modern Rubber team. And this used to be a really cool company. I used to really like their designs. I didn't really use them for scenic stamping, but I always kind of admired them. But those two really had a really cool booth at all the different shows. They would dress it up, and make it seasonal. The ones that I remember specifically were Halloween, because we'd always be doing the Rubber Rama shows up in San Jose, like right around Halloween. So they would have like a Halloween theme booth that was really cool. I always felt bad because I never did anything kind of seasonally for my booth, like Christmas or decorated or anything like that. Hello, Zelicest. Good to see ya. It's Lori. Lori who? Art Continuum, Stamp Shack. Anyone remember these right here? Momar Image and Thought Check the Wayback Machine. The whole catalog is there. Oh, that's cool. Carmen's Veranda. Well, there you go. Good to have everyone on. But I don't know. Yeah, looking through this, it really brings back some really great memories. Okay, so Mirror Image right here. Stephen Meir. Okay. I always loved his stuff. And I think I have a couple of his pieces. He was like an artist. So he's always doing these, like, figure drawings, and there were like these reclining nudes and stuff like that that some people would utilize in scenic stamping, that, stylish ones, that looked really cool, like in a forest type of setting or something like that. And there's a few people that had quite a few of his images, and they're in the gallery section on the website, so it was really cool. Carmen's is with Lost Coast now. Okay, good, good. Hello, Ellen. Cat's Life Press, Alex Stamping right here. They kind of converted into scenic stamping at one point in time. But her husband, you'd always see them at the shows because he'd always have this like top hat on, and he'd always be decked out in this kind of cool suit, at the different shows. Um, yeah, always fun stuff at the conventions. Paper Adventures. I remember this ad here, but I don't remember Paper Adventures like in stores. Were they just kind of more like art supplies or something like that? I don't remember, but I remember seeing this ad quite a bit of times. Oh, you shared a great. Okay, cool, cool. Yeah, yeah. Everyone, if you check it out, if you if you go onto Facebook, if people aren't on Facebook, or if you're on Facebook, I should say, check out Rubber Stamping History. And then if you have like old catalogs or something like that, I'd love to see it, or just like little shots of this. Like this is, I wish I could, I can't zoom in too close because it starts going wonky and out of focus right here. But this is Roberta from Madness, the editor right here. And she's at a convention, and it says in Los Angeles, so I would assume that would be the Carson show. And so, one of the most important people in rubber stamping, and just because of the Rubber Stamp Madness, publication. But here is Donnie England right here, and she was one of the first convention coordinators, and she put on the San Jose convention, San Jose, California, and then she migrated out to different areas of the Bay Area and to Sacramento, and then eventually she was done with it. I think she owned, what was it? She owned Quarter. I get confused. It was not Quarter Moon, right? Or was it Paper Moon? It was Paper Moon or Quarter Moon that Donnie, her company was. But then she did the conventions too. But she eventually sold her convention, I guess, mailing list and whatever show dates and locations to a Stamp in the Hand company, who was my boss, when I first started working for in the stamping industry. But my boss was the one that put on the Carson show. Okay, so suddenly my boss was putting on Carson, San Jose, Sacramento, and there might have been like one or two other shows that Donnie was in. I'm not sure. Some of those shows were like a one-shot type of thing, like San Rafael or something like that. But she was the one. And then Heirloom started putting on other shows up in that Bay Area too, San Mateo, stuff like that, which I did once. But I don't know. There were too many shows in certain areas. But another really important person, in terms of kind of the stamp convention type of thing going on. In terms of like having multiple shows and kind of coordinating that type of thing. Paper Moon, thank you. You have tons of. I can't get rid of those Rubber Stamp Madness, pieces. I have some of them I have like multiple copies of because I was an advertiser, so they would send me that, and then they would send me one just as a promotional type of thing too. Okay, so oh, your Halloween RSMs, huh? That's cool. Okay, so here's one of my ads right here. I remember doing this one, but I don't remember but I guess it was 20 years for Rubber Stamp Madness. So this was like their, I don't know, 20th anniversary one, I guess. So, yeah, full page ad like that, just Stampscapes. So this is something right here I was mentioning to people. I was doing these cloud portal types of things, and I was talking about using different values in your impressions themselves. I talk about it all the time still, But this is one where you're using different values of your imagery to create depth like that and transitions. But this is one where I have the clouds right down here in the water like that to give it that kind of misty feel. And you can see how I'm using a lot of the white pigment ink at this point in time all over everything to give it that kind of atmospheric, kind of vibe in there. Addicted to rubberstamps.com. Does anyone remember that website out there? Addicted to Rubber Stamps came around, and they were the first online entity to carry like a gazillion different manufacturers' stamps. And I had kind of had a policy about online entities because I knew it was going to affect storefronts, okay? And I forgot who it was. They sent in an order that was fairly large one. They were backed by some guy. I think he was a millionaire. I think the story was he sold some company or something like that and decided to go into rubber stamps and like paper crafting. I think there was an addicted to scrapbooking as well, right? But they didn't say what if they had a store or not. And I was kind of suspicious of it because I was like, wait a minute, here's this place, and they're just like, just send us 20 of everything, of your. I think that was another thing. Send us 20 of your 50 most popular stamps or something like that. I don't know what it was, but it was something akin to that. And then I think I emailed them or something like that, and I said something like, hey, I didn't know if they were legit because I hadn't heard about them. And I think they didn't have like a store address or something like that. But then Lee Edwards from Limited Edition Rubber Stamps, who I was friends with, she was at their factory or office at that time. And I think she saw that email or something. So she wrote back to me and she says, hey, this is Lee typing back on their email, She says, yeah, they're a legitimate company. So anyway, that was a a different entity in that time. I didn't know what to think about them too. Oh, I think what I did was I just said, okay, if we're gonna wholesale to you, no discounting, okay? And I think they were able to write that into their system. So when they had like discounts or something like that, they weren't out, underselling all of the established resellers out there, the retail stores out there, at least with my stuff. And I think some other people came up with that same policy as well. All right, so, okay, this is probably done by my boss right here. Yeah, Kathy Okamoto. This is using, so we're just talking about the pens right here, the Marvy 1500 series pens like this, and getting those watercolory types of impressions, so you get a lot of varied colors right in the impressions themselves like that. And that was using the 1500 series of Marvy pens. So we were just talking about this on Friday and utilizing brush markers to create that type of look right there. Kathy got it from her techniques from Dee Grunig from Posh Impressions with her really bold styles of imagery, a lot of solid areas. And I don't know, does anyone have any of the Posh Impression stamps? With some of her stamps, I don't know who made her stamps, but I think she did it first, but then she started outsourcing it. But then they were so solid sometimes that when they were brand new, has anyone ever done this before? But they recommended using like, I'm sure it was like an ultra fine grain sandpaper, but they used to talking about sanding the surface a little bit to scuff it up to give it more of that, whatever magnetic or whatever, some type of surface for the ink to grab onto, which always, that to me was like something that you just don't do, at least not with my designs. But I don't know, that was something that I thought it was being recommended by Dee to do. So I don't know, that always shocked me. So I've never talked with anyone that kind of got their stamps kind of seasoned with sandpaper. I don't know if it was wet sandpaper and super fine or what, but yeah. One stamp of chairs. PSX Happy 2000. Wow. Okay, Zella says, yeah, Posh Impressions. Do you have some of those original ones? I'm wondering what year kind of you have there. Posh Impressions, they started having their stamps made by Stampomania. I went to this one um, convention, CHA show, and she had just licensed all of her stuff. So everything Posh Impressions in clear stamps, right? And you know the difference between clear stamp impressions. They work for great, for certain types of imagery, but a big, bold, kind of solid imagery thing. And I guess they hadn't done any testing of them yet, or they hadn't made them into stamps yet. But they said, okay, clear stamps are like the thing now, so we're going to just release them all in clear. And that's the way they were marketing them and selling them at CHA. CHA, you're not like demonstrating. Well, you could demonstrate there, but she wasn't because her line was established. And then like 3 months later, it was all in rubber again. And I said, hey, Dee, what happened to those clear versions? She goes, Kevin, she says, I just could not get a good impression with that clear. And of course you can't, not on that big solid, type of surface area. So I thought, oh my God, that was crazy. Yeah, Dee on the Carol Duvall. So if anyone doesn't know what we're talking about here with Dee Grunig and Carol Duvall, you can look at YouTube here and just look up Carol Duvall and like Dee Grunig, and you'll come up with like some videos, old videos of hers. I think they used to be up there. See this Dage glue system right here? I used to use this in school, in college right here. And what you do is you put this liquid glue in there. It was like a white glue, but there was this roller thing like this. And you can roll that on. If anyone knows what like a waxer is, like for paste ups or something like that, old style paste ups. This thing right here was really fantastic with white glue. So I used to use this once in a while on my pieces to make cards because it gave a really smooth application and real thin application of the glue that went to this, so it was a special glue that went in there. And that was a fantastic tool right there. Stamps Happen. I used to see him at different shows. You have some never used. I had that too. Never did like it. Oh, you didn't like that adhesive, huh? I love that one. I don't know if I'm sure spray adhesive was out at the time, but I guess in terms of that was my tool right there for not going outside and spraying, with my spray adhesive. Yeah, the spray adhesives were out at the time because I had to use those in school for a really smooth application of glue, but yeah, Stamps Happen. This guy used to be in a lot of different stores, but they still would do like a lot of the retail shows, which always surprised me. And he was gone. He was here and gone, like at one point in time. It always surprised me in this industry. You'd see somebody at some show, PSX at CHA or something like that, with a big booth display and everything like that, and then boom, they're gone like 3 months later or something like that. I don't know, maybe they still did the show. I don't know, maybe it was in flux or something like that, or CHA shows really expensive to do, so, I don't know, people just did them anyway. Even if they were there. I don't know, they wouldn't do them if they were kind of they're on the way out, though, would they? Some kind of butterfly little swirl right here. Okay, so we're talking about glossy cardstocks sometimes during my live streams. And we're talking about like glossy cardstock seems to be a surface that's largely been forgotten. And maybe not forgotten, but just the newer kind of users of stamps just did not come up using any type of glossy cardstock. Maybe because when they started stamping, this is what I'm assuming, that Copic markers were the way to color, and people like coloring on matte cardstock with Copics, as opposed to glossy, which is going to be more sealed off, and you're going to get like these textural types of coats with glossy. That's, I don't know. That's what I'm just assuming, because it was just until like a few years ago I didn't realize that, oh, a lot of people have never stamped on glossy before. But what I'm getting at right here is that chrome coat specifically is noted here in the materials right here for creating this right here. So getting those, probably those bright tones like that, I don't know. Maybe it required that chrome coat on there or something like that. Hello, military mom. Easy to keep us with you because I have so much to say. uh, Say anything you want to. Okay, vulcanizing doesn't cost more. What is this? Socrates Press. I have no idea what that is. Stampendous right here. Okay, so Stampendous, I forgot her name. Doesn't anyone remember the owner of Stampendous right here? But I thought they changed their name from Stampendous to Fun Stamps. I don't know, maybe it was their line of stamps. They just branded that under the Stampendous line, but she was around for a really long time. When I started in stamping at a Stamp in the Hand company in '87, Stampendous was one of those companies that were still that were already in operation at that point in time. But Stampendous was the one other company. I don't have one of those stamp mounts here, but they used those types of stamp mounts that had the acrylic top on the top where you index this little piece of paper that goes underneath this acrylic top that can pop on and off of these kind of more not hourglass, but these, I don't know, what type of shape is that? These other types of mounts, but Stampendous was using those ones at the time. And then I always thought those things looked, totally antiquated at the time. But my boss wanted to have some sort of color indexing on the top, and those types allowed for that. But the Stampendous switched over to like wood-mounted hourglass shapes with a label on top, and I thought, oh my God, we need to switch over like that. I'm talking about a Stamp in the Hand at the time, but eventually Stamp in the Hand did switch over and started hand indexing their tops of their blocks. But the thing about those other ones, we were coloring these little things that went underneath these plastic things like that, and it looked fine, brand new, but then these things would be sitting out on store shelves in the light, or whatever light that's coming through the front window or something like that. So if they sat on the store shelf out in like sunlight, exposed to light, like after a year, and I'd see these because I'd go into these stores teaching classes, and I'd see these Stamp in the Hand stamps with their indexing all faded out. It looked terrible. So it's like, I don't know. That's when I switched us over at a Stamp in the Hand to color laser printing. But anyways, master carved blocks. Now see, even Statler was advertising in RubberStampMadness at this time because, suddenly however many stamps, erasers they were selling before, to eraser carvers or just people that wanted to erase something, not that many, but suddenly you get a rubber stamper, they're going to carve out something like that, and they're going to need another eraser after one image. So you had big companies like this starting to advertise in RubberStampMadness at this time. So, yeah. Rubber Stamp Clinic stamps. Did I just miss something here? Was there a Rubber Stamp Clinic right here? I was thinking, what are you referring to there? The Moon Rose art stamps. That is a company. I thought that was still around. Here, let me show you right there. I was using this reclining nude. I don't know if she's reclining nude. She's in drapery, okay? and it was by the Moon Rose. And then they were still in operation a few years ago, but then they didn't have that one stamp. So people couldn't get it. And I had been asked about that a lot over the years whenever I used that image. And then I said, okay, I'm just going to do those Moonlight Dreamer stamps. So I released like a sheet. I think it's set number 26 or something like. No, that's the fences. Set 30. I don't remember, but that's using one of those copyright free clip art types of things, which ended up being a lot more work than even coming up with original designs because I had to clean up these old engravings so much. Vamp Stamp News. Anyone know what Vamp Stamp News is? A very significant kind of instructional type of magazine that had a lot of techniques, but I don't know if I think there were photographs of it. It was all black and white, but a lot of it was like explained kind of in, maybe there was a sample of it in black and white. Then they would explain the techniques. So this one right here was known as like the Stampers Stamping Magazine. And people would always mention that they got it for the techniques. You got to have a blog, or I'll share more on your share more on the rubber stamping history. Yeah. Post it on that. That way everyone can see it, and it's always up there. I love seeing those. Those rubber stamping history ones. Those posts like that. Old magazines, or take a picture of the cover, flip it open, take a picture of like the inside, because there's so little information of a lot of these different types of companies out there. When I look at certain companies, there's like zero information out there on the web. Even Stampa Barbara, there was one. I mentioned this over several times, but Rubberstamp Stampa Barbara, that was the biggest store that ever been. But he went out of business too early, so people weren't walking around with smartphones taking photos. So there was like one picture of Stampa Barbara out there that I could find on the internet. No pictures of Kathy Lewis's classes and stuff like that. No pictures of the interiors of stores. I asked Gary Dorothy, the owner of Stampa Barbara, who owns this photography studio in Palm Springs. I said, hey, do you have any photos of your place? He didn't have any photos of it. Or he said he didn't. So I know him, though. It's like, if he didn't have like a professional photographer shooting it, I don't know. He didn't do it. So there's like so little information of certain companies and catalogs and all those types of things. So it's really good to get it out there. 100 Proof Press, I love them. Now, didn't they just change? Someone said they just changed hands again. But from the original, it went to Anne Pennyworth. I want to say Money Penny, but that's James Bond. But that's one of my favorite companies right here, and I have a lot of their imagery that I use in my personal stamping. But always liked them. My favorite companies were the ones that had a lot of old engravings, because I like detail, and those old engravings are really fantastic. In those old engraving. Now these ones look like original pieces right here, but they have a lot of those really fantastic, super detailed 20th century engravings. Visual image printery right here. This was a company that was always right next to us at the Carson convention. They had this big old elaborate booth with, I think they were like professional like displays that lit up, fluorescent bulbs and everything like that. And they would have to roll these fixtures out of this one big truck. But it was two guys that owned this. One of them did all of the designs, and one of them was more of the business guy. But that was a big operation at one point in time. Big operation, relatively speaking, in terms of, places doing shows and things like that. But then the one guy that did all the imagery for this one, he bought out the other guy. I want to say the other guy's name was Terry. and they were running it themselves, and I think they got their kids to help out or something like that. But the guy that was doing like the trimming maybe of the rubber or something like that, I think he cut his finger off or something like that. And there was this whole issue with that lawsuit and things like that, and I think they were gone after that. So I don't know. I might have the story wrong, but there was some sort of injury with someone doing production there. You didn't think you'd be watching like a RubberStampMadness flip through talking about, fingers getting chopped off and stuff like that, huh? It's just like a train of thought type of thing right here. Curtis's collection, Curtis Ueda. I've done a catalog flip through of his before on this channel. He died suddenly. I forgot what it was. Does anyone know? It was like a heart thing, right? He was just, I don't know, he was a few years older than I was, but always loved his stuff. Really fantastic drawings and just a really great draftsman. Asian art type of things, a lot of Japanese things. And he went, and I guess the story was he went out and got a book somewhere at some bookstore, went into his room. He wasn't feeling too good and just laid down to rest and never got up, you know. And that was this is Curtis's collection, so I'm guessing this was post, his passing. So, but I always used to see him at all the different shows that I happened to do. So yeah, that was a shock there. Yeah, that's the thing here. So see, this Rubber Stamp Man was such an important magazine at the time, because this is where you got this is where you found out kind of what was going on in the industry. There was the techniques types of articles, but it was the ads where you can see different companies out there and you can order, yeah, and that was exactly it. You ordered your catalogs from there. Unless you were going to like the different conventions and picking up, catalogs at the shows. And there were some smaller shows too, but if you were around like Cincinnati or Los Angeles with the Carson convention, where you can see 40, 50, 60 booths or something like that, this was your ticket right here. See this right here, dots, dozens of terrific stamps. That was still kind of that entity right there, right? And then, okay, so dots turned into, is it close to my heart? Because it says dots right here, and this is close to my heart. So the home party type of business thing going on, right? I'm starting to forget about certain things, so it's kind of good for me to flip through these and remember some of these different connections once in a while. Okay, so here's Marco's paper. I just recommended their website to someone for finding things like Marvy inks, and if you want to get smaller quantities of things like glossy cardstock or something, you don't want to buy a ream of 2,000 pieces of 8.5 by 11 glossy. You get a Marco's paper, and they're a company that's like totally catering to the stamping card making public there. So Curtis was 34 at the time then, huh? Yeah, that was such a shock. Renaissance. You like this it's a very rambling history from my point, at least from what I remember here. Filled orders for a while after he passed. Okay. And I think it was his sister, right, that we'd see at the shows then. The frantic stamper is closing her business. Oh, okay. So I know. And there was someone else that was selling too. It was on who did I just see post that? Oh my gosh. Someone else posted something on Facebook. It was she said something like it was just something, her name and then retired or something like that. She was the person that wrote the greeting card tips and techniques encyclopedia, but a pretty big name in stamping. Yeah. Okay, so Marco's paper. So still out there. Marco's paper, and it was like, and I mentioned this before, but it's like, yeah, their website isn't Marco's paper plural. It's just Marco paper. I thought they should have had the S in there because that's the name of their, their business there. I don't know. Maybe they thought it would, Oh, someone mentioned Renaissance right there. Fran from the Frantic Stamper. Yeah, okay. Now first impression rubber stamp arts. I would always teach at their store in the Portland area, and that was one of the stores around in a given region even. Just a really fantastic store. She was in a couple different locations, but it was kind of interesting in her first location. It was like in this building, like in a third floor, like an office space. And then I think as they grew, and they grew really quickly, they kept moving. You can tell when there's like these businesses where when there's an open office space next door or whatever, they just keep migrating into those ones. So their first location was this one where it was like a labyrinth, because all these extra office spaces, they'd open it up with a doorway. So you'd go through and it was like this, like I said, like a labyrinth of different rooms and then offices, rooms within rooms, right? And then they got this other location, probably here on Fremont. That's probably the new location. But then there was a big, huge thing, big, huge workshop area. And they were one of the first places that had one of those tilted overhead, like mirror types of things, so that when you're working right here demonstrating, people out, in the class could see what you were doing. They weren't doing like a camera or anything like that, which I guess, people would do these days or something like that, but they were just doing that overhead display thing like you'd see at a fair demonstration of like a whatever cutlery or something like that, being displayed. So that was one of the first places that I saw have something like that. Plus they had like room for like 30 people in their class area. It was pretty nuts. The $89 catalog was Kid Stamp. What was that? Did we just see them right here? Where's the Kid Stamps things? So Kid Stamps was that company that made that Edward Gorey line of stamps. They do like licensing, right? Apparently we all should have bought 10 of those Edward Gorey sets because those are like collector's items. I always used mine, but if anyone had like unopened bits of those, that would be pretty crazy. Printworks right here. That's a pretty nice, stylish ad. So Printworks was always right next to us at the Carson Convention Center. They were a gigantic draw, and they always had some kind of I don't know what they had in there. I never went down there. I'd always talk to Jamie all the time, though, because we were getting our booth ready, and stuff like that right until the last minute. But everyone would rush into this area. So the Carson Community Center, it wasn't like a regular convention center where it's all in one big room. There were like these separate wings everywhere and stuff. And if this was like a whole room right here, you enter right here. And then there's this whole aisleway out here around here, and there would be booths out here. But then the center area was like sunken in our specific room. And this whole big area like this was only Printworks. They just have things set up everywhere, and you go down this ramp, and everyone would be running in here to get something that they were selling. I think it was it might have been like grab bags or something like that, maybe of seconds. I have no idea. But then everyone would run down to Printworks. And by the way, they were one of the first companies that had those raised die base pads, and I used to use their inks for a long time. But anyone remember Darcy's Country Collectible? Darcy, I don't know. I know it was Darcy's, but then they had this big, huge room over this way that was in a separate door that opened up in here, and they had this gigantic room in here and another big, big draw because we were in this area called, was it West Wing or something like that? But if these companies like Printworks and Darcy's came over out of the main hall into that, my boss would give them a little bit of a perk. So, like, for the price of like a triple booth, you'd have like the size of, like, I don't know, booth like two triple booths or three in this other wing. So I don't know. People that used to go to that convention, sometimes they didn't even know about these other wings. So it's like they did the main room. It's like, oh, I didn't even know about North Hall and East Wing or something like that. Hero Arts right here, still around and still owned by this original ownership, right? I think they have like a history thing going on too. Someone said on their YouTube channel. So check that out. I haven't checked that out, but someone mentioned it. Rubber Stamp Convention. This is the convention that was put on by my boss over at A Stamp in the Hand when I worked for them from 87 to like 91. The Carson shows, and it looks like she took over for the Rubberamas at that point in time too. So RUB stands for Rubberama, and RSC is the Rubber Stamp Convention. At Long Beach right here, the Queen Mary convention. There was a convention on the Queen Mary cruise liner. That was one of the most interesting conventions ever in that ship because they had this area that they can use for that. But that original one got so many people there that the fire marshal came at one point in time and he shut down the show. There had to be like 100 people that come out or something like that at one point in time before they started letting in like 10 people at a time. 10 people came out, 10 people can go in, but it was the most crowded show, one of the most crowded shows that I'd ever been to. And it's the only one where, like, for like a half a second there, I got like claustrophobic at the end because I had just had so many people around me. And I think I was looking for something at one point in time, and I couldn't move. So I had like a half second, like a panic attack. Printworks, yeah, weren't they awesome? They're a great company. They sold a ton of stuff too. To I think it was Dots or something like that. But then one of those companies just started making their own stamps, and so they lost like a big, big client because they were selling like thousands of stamps to one of those home party companies. I can't remember which one though. It wasn't Stampin' Up. It could have been the previous incarnation of Stampin' Up or something like that. I don't remember. We were just talking about free catalogs. Got it. I got a bunch of gories. Hello, Lindy. Been tempted to sell most kid stamps. Still hold. Yeah, isn't that amazing? Like the kid stamps. We were talking about kid stamps, and those ones, they were sold in those sets, and they were all kind of licensed things, right? And they were, so I didn't see kid stamps. Did anyone see kid stamps selling in rubber stamp stores? I think I bought mine at like either a Barnes and Noble or a what's other book company bookstore? Barnes and Noble or Borders, okay? And it was all in that from that gift section area, so that's where I found it. And they were really cool. Paper Parachute, Rubber Stamp Ave, My Heart Stamps for You. I don't remember that one. There was a lot of hearts in the name of stamp stores. And there was Stamp Your Heart Out and Stamping from the Heart and like a couple other ones like that. Hero Arts has such amazing catalogs. I really admire them. Hero Arts, I think, were the first company to use labels on the top of their stamps for indexing. And when we got those in at A Stamp in the Hand to sell at like craft shows and stuff like that, I was like, oh my God, this looks like so nice. Everything's going to be so consistent. And that's what I always wished that we could do over at a Stamp in the Hand company. Um, but anyways, yeah, they set the standard as far as like labeling goes for rubber stamps. The Angel Company, was that a home store? Yeah, okay. So the Angel Company, that wasn't it? I don't. Does anyone know that answer to that one? We do not have good shows here in Pittsburgh. I think there was a Pittsburgh show. I thought there was I don't know if it was in Pittsburgh, but there were two heirloom shows that went on in Pennsylvania. I don't know if they were hours from you, but I thought there were two of those at different times of the year. I thought put on by heirloom. I wanted to go to some, but some places I didn't do certain shows if we had too many stores carrying the stamps, and there were people that taught how to use Stampscapes in those stores. Because if I went, did a show in those areas, I'd be competing with my own clients. So I stayed out of some areas for that reason. The ones that I tended to keep doing though is the ones where um, there weren't too many stores carrying the stamps, or there might have been later, but I just kept doing the shows or something like that. Um, yeah. Okay, teachers mostly bought kid stamps. That was the target audience for that then, huh? That's interesting. Demoing at the Rocky Mountain Rubber High. Yeah, I do. That was the show you're talking about, right? Where they had the Friday night, like make and take night. Are you talking about? Is that the one, or is that Rocky Mountain Rubber High? Was that a store? That wasn't a store, right? That was the convention. Stamp Fancy. Okay, that was the store in Pittsburgh, huh? Linda, we're gonna make a a time machine and go back to one of the conventions would be the best thing, like the Carson show. Like at this point in time, there might have been 55, 60 booths there or something like that. Yeah, I remember that one. So were you at that convention then, Yawning Greyhound? Were you at that convention there where there was those Friday night, demo nights or whatever, socials? I did that show once. Oh, see you, Linda. Okay, let's see. Stampers Warehouse, Paper Parachute, Boise Rubber Hunt Stamp Show. That's interesting. At the Western Idaho Fairgrounds. I used to have a client in Boise by the name of Got Stamps. I think it was Got Stamps with a question mark. And I said, how'd you come up with that name? And it's because her husband, or they owned like a dairy farm. So it was like a twist on Got Milk, they said. Let's see, Light Up Your Life. What's this about lighthouses or something like that? There used to be one company out there, Rubber Stamp Company. And I don't know if it was they only did lighthouses, but that was one of the main things of their entire line. I think it was just the majority were just lighthouse designs. Isn't it interesting that there were so many stamp companies at one point in time that there was enough room for specialization, if there was. I don't know. That for all I know, they went out of business like quickly or something like that. But there were certain companies that like they had like those ones that like sold like every type of like dog breed out there or something like that. Or there were when people are looking for like trains. I was asked about that not at one point in time, and I was trying to find if Gumbo Graphics, because he had his own separate train line at the time. It wasn't sold under the name of Gumbo Graphics, but Lance was the guy. He says he kept the train ones, but he had all these different types of trains. And then there was Imagine Air designs. Here's Imagine Air right here. So all kinds of like mostly airplanes and really accurate ones. But I don't know, I guess he did subs too or something like that. Stamp Time, they carried our stamps right there. Honko, I used to see them at the convention all the time. Eureka, I know these names, but I didn't see a lot of these companies at certain shows. If I saw you at shows, I tended to remember a little bit more. Luminaire. Sounds like a mica type of thing, maybe. Ink type of thing. Embossing Arts. They were a pretty big company, right? Oh, here's okay, so this is Tyra Smith here. I just pulled this off the shelf and I didn't realize that Tyra's article was in here. But Tyra Smith was a really awesome user of Stampscape stamps. And I've mentioned it before, but she's the one that used like stipple brushes. They're like stencil brushes to add her ink onto a scene, okay? And she layered it. And this is all glossy cardstock, if I'm not mistaken. But she would use just standard paintbrushes too. Like I use a lot of whatever, sponges, paper towels, and stuff like that to layer my ink. But she would just use like brushes like this, smaller brushes, or stipple brushes to like do like large areas, okay? But then she would take like this and just dab into like a stamp pad, and then she would go like this. So everything tended to have like a really light, real soft style of application. And it was all dye-based inks at the time too, okay, that we were using. I don't think we were using, she might have used some gel pens or something like that too. Those stars up there look like some like gel pen or something like that. But mostly dye-based inks at this point in time too. I don't think she used any like Copic markers at that point in time. Anyone remember when Copics kind of came onto the scene? It was a little bit later than 2000, right? Wasn't it around 02 or 3 or something like that? I don't remember. I have Stampendous Lighthouse. Yeah, Fran. Yeah, Fran from Stampendous. I was trying to remember. Oh, so I was talking about something else too with Stampendous. So we were talking about this image earlier in this article because this image is right here for Versacolor. But speaking of Fran and Stampendous, Diane McGuire used to do a lot of demonstration and teach classes for Stampendous, making samples. And she used to go to this Huntington Beach Stamp Club. But then I think she had some kind of catalog or something like that of a bunch of cards. And that's where we came up with the idea of doing like an angel type of thing. And Diane, myself, and Debbie Burnham from the head of the Huntington Beach Stamp Club, we got together and made those like a spread for the Stamper Sampler for holiday stamping or holiday cards. And so speaking of, Fran and, Diane, speaking of that, had she was the one that kind of gave me the idea for like an angel bursting out of my cloud cumulus. And this type of composition right here with a little angel like that with clouds around it, I started seeing that in other submissions going forward in mainly RubberStampMadness. But it was like, oh, hey, I think we kind of influenced, we got the, kind of the ball rolling on certain types of looks that one day. Just one, whatever, it was probably like a Saturday or Sunday when the three of us got together. And it was really cool to see that after that show. So I'd see like these, there were some other cards that we made that day. But that was, Diane said, that was her secret kind of weapon was like card catalogs where she would get her ideas from and translate it into, rubber stamps. And she would just do other versions of these, the cards that she saw. I don't remember where that catalog was from. But anyways, this is probably an 11 by 17 here by Tyra. And you can see that those transitions in here, those really soft transitions with her brush work in there. And so, yeah, she was really awesome with that. Here's the cloud bar up here. Tall Peak and Rocky Peaks right here. Here's the ledge right here that I've been using. It's right here, right here. And she used that in the center. This scene right here is a little bit reduced. This whole page right here would be an 11 by 17. Um, yeah, but some really fantastic work right here. Let's see. Stampaway had Friday night Spent Oak ticket show, limited number of tickets. Stampaway. Oh yeah. So Stampaway is the Cincinnati show, and that was a really fantastic. I thought Stampaway was the ultimate kind of event in rubber stamping. Carson was a little bit more established, and just as far as a show went, a lot of people came from all over the world to go to the Carson show, just to see kind of what was going on in the industry. But I felt that Stampaway in Cincinnati, that was the ultimate stamping event because it would start on Thursday with workshops going on at the store and at the hotel, I think, not at the convention center, unless they were having it at the convention center too. And then Friday, there were workshops all day and then demonstrations at the store as well, at the store that was coordinating Stampaway. And then the show was Saturdays, but then were the Friday night sneak preview things going on all the time, or were those added at some point in time? But then they started opening it up on Friday nights for like a sneak preview, ticket only types of things. You had to have there's a limited number of tickets, but there were still a lot of people there though on Friday nights. And some people would buy all their stamps on Friday nights because Saturday it was just so crowded. Or a lot of the convention participants, the booths would run out of things. So people didn't want to wait. So it's like if they wanted to get something, they picked it up a lot of times on those Friday nights. And some people said they didn't even go back on Saturday, but they might have been taking classes from Thursday, Friday, and done, Thursday, all day Friday, you know what I mean? Some people didn't go back on Saturday because they'd already been there for like a couple nights. If they came from out of town or something like that, they might have got there on Wednesday night. So it was really cool. Oh, Zealous Zest, yeah. No, you're not hogging up the chat at all. I was hoping to get some people on here because one of the fun things about like doing the conventions is that I get to kind of chat with people that some of these types of things or something like that, or, are just curious about it or interested in finding out a little bit of that rubber stamp history. So you can talk about, we can kind of geek out on things, about things that we remember from way back in the day. Or stores and stuff like that. Okay, now here's another great piece by Tyrett. You won't notice it, but these main images right here are all by other companies. This one's probably Coronado rubber stamps right here. But my grass texture is used all throughout here to kind of unify this area together like that. Tyra demonstrated, so speaking of the Stampaway in Cincinnati, Tyra demonstrated one time at the Cincinnati show with me. Let's see. Demos and make and takes on Friday night. Yeah, there's fun. Those were fun. Conventions. One place, another place that did. So we were talking about that in Denver. That Denver show had that Friday night preview one. The places that had the Friday night previews, from what I recall, I'm not sure about this exactly, but I think the places that did Friday night preview nights and demos, make and take type of events, I don't think those were 2 day shows, like Saturday, Sunday. I think it was Saturday only. So they did the Friday night kind of preview nights. That was my favorite thing too. I didn't like. Well, I mean, it was okay, but my preference was 1 day shows, Saturday only. I understood some places. So some manufacturers won't do a 1 day show because if they're coming from whatever, they're going from the East Coast to the Midwest and they're traveling all the way to Carson, on the West Coast, doing a 1 day show is just not worth their time. It just costs too much for a 1 day show. So they had to make it 2 days. But my favorite shows were those ones that had those preview nights like that, the make and take nights and stuff like that. So Denver had it. And then at this one show in Las Vegas, they had it wasn't, the convention floor wasn't open where you were doing the make and takes and stuff like that. Maybe the Denver one wasn't either. Maybe, or I don't remember, but uh, this one convention in Las Vegas had this Friday night ice cream social. So I think you bought a ticket for that, and they were doing make and takes and demonstrations in this one hotel that was the coordinating hotel, probably. And you can go do a self serve like Sunday or something like that, or ice cream. And then there was make and takes going on all over the place. That was really a super festive thing. But those are really fun though, aren't they? It makes for like a big like whole event. I mean, the convention's an event too, but it's a different type of vibe. Because you're not like socializing so much. At these like social things, you're not selling anything, so it's more just demonstration and chatting and stuff like that. Radiant pearls right here. Anyone remember Radiant Pearls right here? When these things came onto the market, like around this time, that became like the hottest product, I don't know, ever in rubber stamping as far as an accessory goes. I can't remember anything that was like hotter than that. It might have been as hot. Maybe there was, I don't know. I'm not including like embossing. Everyone, early on got into embossing. But Radiant Pearls right here. When I talk about the CHA show, does anyone not know what that is? That's the Craft and Hobby Association, and it was the wholesale show for the crafting industry. So you'd have like sewing places there and Elmer's glue and, Sharpie markers and stuff like that. But you'd have like the independent sellers too, selling anything. It could be like some farm selling dried flowers or something like that out of 5 gallon buckets or something like that as their display. But Radiant Pearls I walked through and there was like thousands of booths at these shows, these CHA shows. But one of the shows that I went to, Radiant Pearls had this booth in the new seller section. They'd have like if you were kind of a new manufacturer or something like that, and maybe if it was your first convention at CHA, they'd put you in this separate room, which was often like one of the hotter rooms because it's like all new products or something like that. But that Radiant Pearls booth, when I went, I wasn't selling at that show. I was just kind of walking it. And that was the most crowded, busiest booth in the entire place out of thousands of booths. And I think that was over at Anaheim. And man, it's like everyone was ordering those. All the stores or stuff like that were ordering. I met the owner of Radiant Pearls too at one stamping retreat one time, and we were talking quite a bit there. But yeah, it was nuts. It was really cool to see. You almost couldn't even get even near their booth, because it wasn't even that large of a booth. Though a lot of the new manufacturers were in like 10 by 10 booths or something like that. I think they had 10 by 20, but it was so jam packed. And if this was their booth out here, it was like a big crowd out here to get into there, and then there was like just people working in there. They were just taking orders, and it was so crazy. I don't know if they still have industry shows like that or not, Aaron. I think they do, but I think it's under a different name. Does anyone know? I thought, what is Creativa? Is that a retail show or is that a wholesale show? I've heard different names coming up over the years, and I thought that it might be kind of the new incarnation of those industry shows like that, but I'm not really sure. Well, I don't know what you should be so embarrassed about with the Radiant Pearls. Everyone had them. Yeah. And then a lot of people started coming out with versions of those mica style media things like Radiant Pearls. Those things were like super hot. The one thing about these, I heard, okay, I don't have any of them, or I might have some, but they talked about the consistency. So they were probably making these up in house, which is really cool. You know, they weren't like outsourcing that like to China or something like that, but it was the consistency of the colors, I think, from one order to the next. I think it was a little bit kind of um, inconsistent. That's the feedback that I got. Okay, I have no idea. Creative, yeah, that's is that the name? Is that the industry show? Creative Shun? What was that? Creative Tion. How do you pronounce that? Yeah, yeah, Tim Holtz. I'd see him. I'd see Tim at the shows. He was always swamped. Yeah, I've met Tim. I don't know if I've met. I don't know if I've talked to him too much, but we were talking about the Cincinnati show on Saturday nights. The coordinator for the Cincinnati show would have like a party, just a casual party over at her house. And I think I've talked with him there once or something like that. Um, After the show, sometimes I wouldn't go to that party oftentimes because I was like so tired, and we're going out to eat and stuff like that. But I think I've talked to him there before. Otherwise you're not going to get near him, because he's like so creative. Um, Create Ovation. Oh, thank you. Got it. Yeah. Otherwise, you're not going to get near Tim, and I wouldn't bother him anyway. Yeah. Connie Williams. Thank you so much. How come no TikTok could totally work? TikTok for who? Me? I was on TikTok for briefly, but then I forgot my password or something like that. I used to post my um, I think TikTok was that the 30-second posting or something like that. Here, let me. So Marvi Uchida. Okay, so Marvi Uchida is still in operation, and they still have some of the inks, some of the pens, probably, and some of the re-inkers that we still have out there. I've talked about these crafting style cabinets before. We used to get these crafting cabinets at the shows, which are specialty cabinets. Oftentimes they were kind of conceived for wood mounted rubber stamps, probably still at this point in time, but then they started doing like pad holders and stuff like that, really shallow, drawers where you can store and organize all your pads and things like that, your radiant pearls. Circus Stamps right here. He used to make all of my rubber. Scrapbook Expo now I think is the closest thing. Okay. The Scrapbook Expo. Okay, the Scrapbook Expo is still going on then. Yeah. I used to do those. I think I used to do the what I call was the intro videos where it's just like a 3 minute type of intro bit, and then I would cut those ones down to like a 30-second little snippet on TikTok. But yeah, I don't know. I lost the connection at one point in time. It's like I don't remember my password or anything like that. And I could look it up, but I don't know. I haven't bothered. Long's Drugs. Anyone remember Long's Drugs? That used to be this chain, but this Long's Drugs, I think they were all independently managed. So this Long's Drugstore in these years, or the earlier years, they used to be a pretty big player in the rubber stamp market for their area, Sunnyvale, California. So it was always interesting to me because we used to go to Long's Drugs, like in my hometown, all the time, for whatever, just for, it was like going to like Target or something like that or Walmart, but it was Long's Drugs where we'd buy all that type of stuff. But then one of the Long's Drugs started selling stamps, so they were, they were a pretty big supporter of Stampscape stamps at the time. I'm sure there was like a rubber stamper that was managing that section because they really knew what to order and what to get, and I I wouldn't think they were teaching workshops in a Long's Drugs. Not I don't think they were gonna have like a workshop area like a Michaels or something like that. But yeah, I'm not sure. Ted's doing that from Stampaway. Oh, okay. So Ted's a perfect person to do the Stampaway, and I'm glad to hear that it's still going on. Hello, Leslie. We're Longs in Hawaii. Okay, yeah. Now, this was the only Long's Drugs that were carrying our stamps. Okay, it was just a one store. It wasn't the chain or something like that with centralized buying. Okay, look. Okay, now here's another. Okay, so making of myths right here. Look at this right here. See, this is what I talk about. RubberStampMadness, which is still in operation, they still do a lot of scenic stamping types of stuff because scenic stamping is really about the art of the actual act of rubber stamping, which other card making is too, but sometimes you get like one stamp used. And there might be a bunch of other types of accessories or something like that, cutouts and things like that used on the card, which I love too. But yeah, going back, you can see how much just rubber stamping was being done, in the pages of Rubber Stamp Madness, less card like, on these types of things, just, it's like rubber stamping for the act of rubber stamping, on these pieces. So doing scenes and things like that. Predominantly rubber stamping technique, I would say, in the pages of Rubber Stamp Madness. I don't know, now still, it's probably still the same way. Really great stuff right here. These castles and stuff like that. Someone just posted up this castle-y type of piece on the Stampscapes group, and then he used a bunch of the, I think the mystic stuff around there, trees and stuff like that. It looks really fantastic. Here's my waterside bluff right piece right here, just stacked like this on this piece right here. But look at how dramatic this piece is right here. This figure, this is a great figure right here. Really great look. A lot of variation right up here. That looks like, I was going to say that looked like some kind of metallic type of edition right here. But I haven't looked through these in a long time. This is really fantastic right here. Someone here, Burnt Zeitgert, aka Jack the Rubber. Isn't that a great scene right here? Some of these things, it's like, I don't know if you could still find a lot of these images still. Art Gone Wild here. Is Art Gone Wild still in operation? Okay, so here's Stamp Francisco. So I think I just got word that Stamp Francisco closed like, I don't know, does anyone know? It was like a last week or something like that, or 2 weeks ago or something like that. Yeah, it's kind of fun to flip through these, huh, Leslie? So Stamp Francisco had the Ivory Coast. So the Ivory Coast one, they made up all those alphabet sets. When those alphabet sets came out, A Stamp in the Hand had their own alphabet set, which was like super tasking to make each one of those individual letters. And then we had to shrink wrap it. I mean, most of, like stamp companies are like small manufacturers. We don't have these machines that are just, you're not like pressing this button and all these like sets are coming out like with a shrink wrapping and everything like that. So we had to put these like in a bag and try to keep all these like separate pieces of stamp letters from like falling over. Then you shrink wrap it, but that one letter is like on its side and stuff like that. But when Ivory Coast came out with all those different fonts, it was Ivory Coast, right? that had those alphabet. Yeah, it's alphabet sets like that. It was like, okay, we need to stop making that alphabet set because these ones are like so much cheaper and stuff like that. I think they were on those. Were there those peg stamps like on foam pegs or something like that? I don't remember, but that was a really great source for different fonts. Fruit Basket Upset. I think they were Fruit Basket Upset might have been around in '87 when I started working for a Stamp in the Hand, but they were gone really soon after. But I think Fruit Basket Upset was one of those places that made stamps for Stamp Francisco, one of those companies that did. And there's Bartholomew's Inc. But Stamp Francisco, the current entity, or whatever the entity that bought all these, also bought up Gumbo Graphics, which is another one of my favorite companies. Anyway, Ted. Okay. Ted is the Art Gone Wild guy. Okay, yeah. Xyron. Anyone remember the Xyron machine? That was pretty big. Inka Dinka Doo here. Inka Dinka Doo. This was a big company. I think, were they the first roller stamp company? I think so here. But Stamp of the Hand would carry those. These are like little roller wheel things, you know, and they would have like a certain pattern. So you roll it into a like a stamp pad or something like that, and then you roll it around like that. Does anyone have a roller stamp? It'd be kind of interesting to see one of those used because it's been so many years like that. A Xyron machine in your local thrift store. I don't even remember what the Xyron did. Didn't it laminate? To apply adhesive to everything. Oh, okay, it applied adhesive. So we were talking about that roller adhesive earlier, but the Xyron machine was made for that then, right? I wonder if my wife has one of these things. It's like this was like super like cutting edge, card making tech back in the day. So a lot of people that, were card making at the time, they would get all these different things that would come out at any given time, I mean, it was kind of, this was like up and running, the stamp industry was, up in full force at the time. But there weren't like the big manufacturers dipping into this industry so much yet at that time, because, these big companies, they have those other things, that they're doing and, they're diversified. So you didn't see certain types of things a lot of times just tailor made for this much more niche kind of targeted audience, Okay, it also had laminate one side. Well, that's what I thought. I thought it was a laminate style machine. Barb, you got to pull out those roller stamps, man, and start enjoying that the roller stamp, whatever, roller stamp fun. And I remember, did anyone ever do mail art? I mean, you probably dressed up your envelopes a little bit, but they're, like this right here, like this really specific, types of things on envelopes to really dress them up were really cool back in the day. I don't know. I think rubber stamp mail art was really big in the 80s through maybe the earlier 90s. I didn't see so many on. Maybe it's because the magazines were more, gearing up towards things like card making at the time more than the envelope itself. So you'd see maybe more envelopes were being showcased in RubberStampMadness and, the different, Stamper Sampler and stuff like that than the envelope themselves. But I don't know, maybe people were still doing them at the time. Or here's that Nick Bantock guy right here. Remember with the Griffin and Sabine books that were out at the time? Xyron sticker maker. That's cool. Home Sweet Zone. Art on the Rocks. I mean, Stamperosa. Stamperosa super famous. Stamper Rosa became their most famous thing was House Mouse. Anyone have a House Mouse here? Now, someone's still making those House Mouse, I think. In fact, I saw some. If they're popular still, they might be, because I think I saw some knockoff House Mouse fairly recently when I was looking for something else. But I'm not sure who has the House Mouse line. I think maybe they were still advertising in the latest issues or something like that I saw. I'm not really sure. I was in Stamp Club years ago, late 90s, like mail arts, mail stuff in clear bottles. Oh, that's interesting with the mail stuff in clear bottles, huh? House Mouse, boy, those things. Every, with those House Mouse things, anytime there was like a release of new House Mouse, I think everyone was getting every one of those House Mouse designs. I swear. So I went and taught at the Stamper Rosa, which was a store, and I think they were manufacturing at the time too. But when that House Mouse took off, someone might correct me on this, but I'm not sure if they kept the store. I have to think they were just doing so much manufacturing and wholesaling, retailing too, maybe, that I wouldn't be surprised if when that House Mouse took off, they just, they got rid of the store. Spellbinders bought Stampendous, okay. Who had House Mouse, okay. And just Hero Arts in September. Oh, okay. Wait. And just Hero. So you're saying that Hero Arts has House Mouse now after Spellbinders? Oh, or is that partnership or something, Spellbinders and Hero Arts or something like that I saw some kind of like announcement for? Was that it? I remember a lot of stuff from like 2000, but I can't remember stuff I saw like 2 weeks ago sometimes, or like yesterday. Or you put in a big soda bottles. That's cool. So look at this right here. Art on the Rocks. This seems like something that would be in like the what's that, Stamping It and Company style magazines. Like not the Stampers Sampler, but Somerset Studio. This looks like a Somerset Studio page to me. Memories. That's a really great ink. That's my Superior right here, okay? So a lot of Superior makes a lot of different lines of ink still, okay? But Memories had a really, really great, or probably still does, a really great black pad. It's super black, but it's almost too juicy for me to use as my foundation stamps. If I'm going to be doing a lot of coloring over the top of it, doing it like monochromatic would probably be okay, but it just doesn't dry fast enough for me. I could probably heat set though, so I'd have to heat set everything. But that Memories, these inks right here, I only had the black one, but I'm assuming that the other colors were also really good, really super thick and rich. Okay, and that's what I always want out of my ink, dye-based inks is the I guess with all inks, it's the ink to binder ratio. So this is a dye-based ink, so that pigment to water, it's really nice and rich and thick and not like a watery version of it. So yeah, the Memories black, yeah. It was an awesome black. One guy, his favorite pad was Memories, and it was Ken Pesha. Someone mentioned Ken Pesha earlier out in Arizona. And when I went out and I did a lot more demonstrating out there at the convention in Mesa over the last, I don't know, whatever it was, been 5 years or something like that, I realized, oh, no wonder you can use Memories ink. It's drying like 5 times faster than it does for me, like in Southern California. It was really fantastic. I mean, other inks. I didn't use the Memories out there in Arizona, but I was using VersaFine, which is an oil-based one, which dries even slower. But that thing was setting up for me in like a couple hours, it seemed. I have this hand right here from, I think, Fruit Basket Upset. We were just talking about Fruit Basket Upset. So this one's, I don't know, kind of a comedy, joke types of scenes right here. I'm in this scenic exchange group, and one person like does a lot of these types of scenes like this. This really reminds me of her work right here, like that. So a lot of kind of like narrative types of stuff in stamping back then, like little joke, types of things going on. So this is these are these meteorites right here, or not whatever, not meteorites, but asteroids, like an asteroid type of thing right here. That's one of my designs right there, believe it or not. I think that's on the Spaceman set or something like that. But I did these for a stamp in the hand right there. Okay, let's see. Is re-releasing the House Mouse slowly since they own Stampendous. Okay, got it. So I'm getting all kinds of different information here. You guys are getting me up to speed with a lot of different things that I just didn't know about. Memories Black was my first ink pad. Ancient Page inks. I remember Ancient Page. Did I just flip through it? Ancient Page, yeah. There were so many different ink companies. I was mentioning this the other day too. I think this is my stamp from a Stamp in the Hand company. Um, I don't remember the name of that, but I had this other piece of sky that filled in around the moon right there. But that was my first kind of, I think that might be the first negative space sky entity, okay? So suns were usually this dot, right? It's like a dark entity, but I always wanted an orb in the sky to be my light source. So we had to put the tone around it like that. But I just didn't want to put a bunch of tone like in a circle, so I'd give it these striations like that. And that sky, I think I called that Cloudy Moon. And I forgot what the other stamp was called that went to the side of it. But that became a really popular design for a Stamp in the Hand company. Um, that and like lightning, I had this kind of field of lightning with the lightning bolts as a negative space, so I had to add all that tone around it to create that negative lightning. Otherwise, lightning used to be most lightning, was like this. It was a design like that. It was a positive thing. So if you stamp it out, it's going to be dark on a white piece of paper. But I wanted that lightning to be light as well as like a moon. This could be a sun too, like that. Maplewood, Northern Hardwoods. I was walking around at a stamp show, and Northern Hardwoods was there. And he just had like a bunch of blocks on his table. But that became my source for my wood blocks. This is probably Northern Hardwoods right here in this profile like this. I remember the sales guy, the Northern Hardwoods, they just sold, a bunch of different wood things for, whatever entire wood industry, okay? But then they found, they thought, okay, hey, we can start making some of these for the rubber stamp market. And wood suppliers, man, they came and went. I don't know what it was with that industry, but I had to change wood suppliers maybe like 6 times, 7 times over the years. They would just be here and gone for some reason. Volatile, probably, I don't know, maybe sourcing that type of material, a natural material, was unpredictable or something like that. Maybe prices fluctuated. That's what I'm guessing. Um, Transportation costs and everything like that, but they were a really great source. And then they decided to get rid of that um, stamp molding materials. And the person that was my kind of contact at Northern Hardwoods, they became their own company. So this company would supply to that company. So I used them for years and years and years. They were really great. I remember talking to this guy at the CHA show, and I had the feeling that he didn't really take me too seriously. I don't know how old I was at the time, but I probably looked like I was 20 or something like that. All Night Media, Paper Depot, Judykins, of course. Judykins had like some kind of like a warehouse sale or something like that recently. I noticed that on Facebook. They posted that little postcard type of thing. So if you've ever been to like a warehouse, it probably already happened. I don't know, or it was coming up or something like that. But if you're in the LA area and you're curious about that type of thing, go to that. They have all kinds of things like for sale, like at blowout prices. And yeah. Now, I didn't used to go to that, as a manufacturer, but when I started dating my wife, she was a stamper, so I'd go to like these different things like conventions that I wouldn't be attending just to walk around or something like that. But I went to like the Judykins like warehouse sale. Rubber Stamp Land conventions in Orange, California. Do I remember that? I don't remember that one. Oh, that was at the Elks Lodge. I think I did that one right there. For some reason, it was just this really tiny convention with like, I don't know, 10, 15 booths or something like that. Did you have postoids? I think so. Yeah, I think we postoids are those little fake kind of like border types of stamps that looks like a postage stamp. Yeah. If that's what that is, yeah. Oh, Judykins has the best embossing powder. Well, if anyone goes to their warehouse sale, if unless it already happened, they might have. Oh, you just ordered Judykins online. I didn't know they were online because I checked out their website and I didn't see their store on there because I was referring people over to them because they still had Marvy re-inkers and blank pads for sale. I mean, this was like a few years ago, but I couldn't find anything, any information. And I looked on like Facebook. I could have like, I don't know, emailed them, I guess, but I didn't bother. But I was wondering what was up with it. What is Inker Bills? What is, that's like a, what is that? So there's these little containers like that. What do? You put your like glitter and embossing things in it or something like that, and you put it into this thing right here. Does anyone have the Inkerbell's organizational tree? Tidy tray. It looks pretty cool though. It looks like this stacks on top of that. Okay, I think that's it. They'd be all kind of like on their side like that. And it looks kind of interesting. I guess if you're just using like little powders or something like that in them, you can put like a little sampling of it in each one of these, and that's probably, you're just using a small portion of it. I don't know, maybe, or is that in like for embossing powders? Huh? I don't know. Kind of interesting. I don't remember that at all. So Ranger, okay. A lot of people, I don't. Sometimes I think a lot of people don't know that they just refer to the stuff as like Tim Holtz. I think they think that Tim Holtz is the company as opposed to Ranger in terms of the inks, like the distress inks, stuff like that. But I was using a lot of the Adirondacks before, and I still have them. But they got rid of the Adirondacks. Adirondacks were really popular inks. I think because they kind of went with those off colors a little bit, more earthy versions of colors instead of always having like super bright, pure something. They were kind of a little bit more of an earthy red or earthy green type of thing. Ochre instead of like canary yellow and stuff like that. But yeah. Yeah. So the postoids then that was like they were so big with like mail art. I think people would do those postoid things like that. Oh, eyelets. Is that what that was for? Got it. I think that was one of those things. I went to this store in Colorado Springs, and I think they were like the main distributor sellers for eyelets. Now that I couldn't remember the name of those things and what those things were, but they're like aluminum or metal little things, right? And I think that's what they were selling there. They had like these gigantic bags and bags of them. Lots of rubber baby buggy bumpers. That's another company that was kind of here and gone. So, oh, the museum is open. So we're talking about the Museum of Modern Rubber. But yeah, okay. So here's I didn't know Adirondack embossing powders. Do they still sell embossing powders? Probably Tim Holtz. It's probably under Tim Holtz name, but they're doing any kind of embossing powders or something like that. Creative Impressions. Oh my God. So yeah, that was it. I taught at their store there. Yeah, Creative Impressions in Colorado Springs, right? See, this is what's so awesome about like conventions or doing something like that. Someone always knows, you know, that this history here. You know, yeah, yeah. I'm pretty. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, the Colorado Springs. Yeah, that Creative Impressions. They had like these gigantic bags of all these. It was eyelets, right? I couldn't remember what those things were or what they were called. Yeah. But when I went there, I think I don't know if they make stamps too, and they had that store there. But I think their main business was wholesaling those eyelets, if I'm not mistaken. That was a good trip. I went up to um, I don't know, Garden of the Gods, Cave of the Winds. What's that gigantic 14,000 foot mountain there? I did all those like in the one day on my off day there. Make an Impression. I taught at that store. Hippo Heart right here. Hippo Heart was a store in San Mateo. And if you know limited edition rubber stamps, Lee Edwards, if I'm not mistaken, I think she taught at Hippo Heart. It's either that or she was a customer of theirs. But then Lee Edwards started her limited edition rubber stamps and became super busy with that. But she took my class at Hippo Heart. Yeah. Ribbons and stamp. Pikes Peak. Yeah, yeah. Pikes. Thank you. I didn't know about Pikes and, you know, that you can drive up to the top of it. So I just went there just, you know, because I was checking out some sites and I didn't realize you can drive like to the top. I remember driving down from that and just that rental car of mine, those brakes just like screaming, you know. And then they had that one place where you stop and, you know, let your, you know, brakes cool down for a little bit. But okay, the Rubber Stamp Expo in Las Vegas. Um, I think he was the one that was doing a bunch of shows, you know, around the country. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I should bring up. I'm pretty sure it was the Rubber Stamp Expo. Well, I'm not saying that it was him. Here, I'll say it this way, but there was a coordinator that was doing shows, and they weren't getting enough vendors to attend. So this one convention coordinator, I've mentioned this on a previous live stream at one point in time, but this they were opening up these like different email accounts, like fake email accounts, and they would send an email to different manufacturers that were not signed up to do their show, and they would say, "Hey, my name is whatever, and are you going to do the whatever show? You know, the one that coordinator was putting on." And it was like, because I was going there with 5 of my friends, and we planned on spending a ton of money at your booth, right? But what this convention coordinator didn't know was that there was this online chat forum for just manufacturers, and one of them, manufacturers, looked up like the IP address, and it was the same IP address that email came from that coordinator promoting the show. So it was like him just, we knew that it was him sending out these fake emails like that. So a little bit of a, you know, a little bit of the dark side of rubber stamp convention coordination. Or yeah, or people would do a show, and if he didn't have enough vendors, he might say, okay, if you do the show, like with, you know, whatever, a month to go or a couple weeks, I'll give you the booth for, you know, you can do the booth, you can do the show, and I'll give you the booth for, like, say, $300, right? Because he has to rent out the whole room anyway. So you'd have this convention, this vendor doing the booth for $300, and they get talking with the vendor next to them and something like that, and like the vendor next to him's like, oh, whatever, whatever. Yeah, well, he offered to give me the booth for $300, and this other person paid 1,200. And so it didn't, it wasn't a good kind of situation just overall for a lot of people. uh, but I don't know, it's stuff that you kind of laugh at now. Auntie Amy stamps in Riverside, Michigan. Okay, so the Novi show, that was a really big convention. I never went to this one though, because I think we had a convention like the week before in the Grapevine, Dallas Fort Worth area of Texas, and there was just, I don't know, there wasn't a way to get my booth up there or the booth back to L.A. and for us to re-equip it and then to ship it out there. So a lot of people that did shows all over the country had like two different booth setups that would go into these different areas. Good stamp goods. Anyone remember them? Another really great. Hey, someone was mentioning that bottle thing. Now this is. I mean, they were talking about a different thing here, but look at this bottle here. A bottle rubber stamp that you can put stuff into. That'd be pretty cool if it was like a much bigger one. See, back then you might be able to find like a gigantic bottle and you could stamp all kinds of things into that. This one's probably this size right here. But I really like good stamp goods. I'd always see them at the Carson convention. I used eyelets in my journals with my crocodile. Yeah, the crocodiles. Yeah, that's right. I love those crocodiles because you can punch that one punch thing on it. You can punch through like stamp board with it like butter. Only 14 or yeah, you can drive to. Yeah, I think it is. I would think that would have to be. But that was really fascinating to go up there. Yeah, I didn't know about it. And I hadn't heard about like the Pikes Peak, that race and stuff like that. Bizarro. I think they had some cool images. I'd always see their ads. I don't think I have any of their stamp designs right here. D. Grunig from Posh Impressions, such a significant person in terms of just the art of rubber stamping and the promotion of the general media. Okay, so we were talking about, like certain types of companies just having like a really specific line. This one looks like it's, oh, I was going to say it was just like certain dog breeds, but this one looks like it's all based around animals. I love rubber stamps. And Chico, California, interesting. Gary Berlin, Ancient Page, Ranger Clear Resist Pad. What is this right here? Store owner syntax ID. I think Gary Berlin was like a wholesaler company, so they like had a bunch of different companies, I think, and you can like store owners could order like a bunch of different things from just one company at wholesale, then ordering from a bunch of different ones. I'm thinking, was that them? I can't remember, but there were a couple companies like that. Good Stamps had great paper. I don't remember them selling paper, but I just see them at the Carson show, so I don't remember the paper that they had. Was that a show? Remember Suze Weinberg? Yeah, Suze. I see Suze posts by Suze all the time up on Facebook. Oh yeah, yeah. You got? Did you get? Her heat tool, was that the melting pot one, or is that like heat gun you're talking about? Because she had those melting pot pieces. Suze is great. I mention this all the time, but I used to travel around giving workshops all the time. And there were so many times when I was at some store and Suze was always there like the week before, like literally like last weekend. So I always felt like I was kind of like going around on her tail, but I think it was because she just taught so many different places like all the time. So I was bound to come across, a time when she just, but I was always behind. She was always like there the week before. They'd always tell me. Oh, Gary Valerian is still around. That's cool. Okay. And she did calligraphy name tags for us. Yeah, Suze is awesome. So Suze was the Suze. Okay, so like Dee Grunig was like really significant in terms of like how to color stamps. She was like big on promotion too, and getting out there and putting the art of rubber stamping out there in the public. Okay, but I felt that Suze Weinberg was the she was the significant entity in terms of rubber stamp instruction. And I think she was the one that was doing like traveling around. She didn't have her own products for a long time, but she would teach a lot of things about stamping and stamping techniques using various media and different companies' stuff all over the country on retreats, stuff like that. So she kind of set the standard in terms of rubber stamp instruction went. In my book, in terms of like travel, there were other people teaching in stores and things like that. Maybe for, I don't know, about just as long. Susan's been around for a long time teaching. But yeah, she, just in terms of, how that was all done and stores, asking people to teach at their stores from wherever. And I was, I benefited from that too, because they would ask me, hey, can you come and teach? It might be a store in Connecticut or something like that. But it's because, people were teaching, people were going around teaching, and Suze was like one of the first like traveling teachers that would go all over the place. Okay, that's cool about Gary Boleyn having a big booth at Stampaway. Yeah, I'm glad they're still out there. I'm glad, all these different types of places are out there. West Hills, I used to teach at this West Hills store. It was a really long name. West Hills Rubber Stamp Shop, like that. G-rated, Taj, Whiskey Creek, and of course in Rubber Stamp Madness, there was all the store listings like this. Well, that just started right there. I don't know. What? Did it start somewhere else? I don't know. There was more stores. I know there was a bigger stamp listing at one point in time. Rubber Stamp Avenue. Stamp your heart out, okay? This right here in Claremont, California, Stamp Your Heart Out. That, if I'm not mistaken, was the first rubber stamp store, dedicated store. There were other places that carried stamps, like stationery stores and stuff like that, but just pure rubber stamps. Joan from Stamp Your Heart Out, I think, was the first place. And that was the first place I ever taught at, too, in her store. And it was like a really tiny little store. But then when scrapbooking came out, it became a much bigger store when I went in there. I didn't teach there, but I went in there at one point in time. But yeah, it was just all stamps in there. And that was like in the mid 80s, and she had been around by the time I taught there, but yeah, I don't know if she would. There were any other stores before that. Kathy Okamoto can probably mention that, too. But it was kind of like it's kind of like a college town and a really kind of, gifty kind of type of boutique types of stores in that little area with restaurants and stuff like that. So, yeah. Sue's class at Marco's. That's a great combination. There's Sue's and Marco's at the, all on one roof there with all of their papers and everything like that, supplies. G-rated. I think I used to see G-rated at the conventions, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember, though. Stamp Inks. That is a really great horse right there. Stamp Inks. Anyone remember them? I don't know if I saw them at shows. I probably, I flipped through these RubberStamp Madnesses when I got them in, and I probably didn't look at them again. Back in the day. Marks of Distinction. That was that place. That was the one that made this image right here. He would often do like these really gigantic versions of those copyright, clip art book designs. And I have a flip through of his catalog on this YouTube channel. So if you look at Marks of Distinction, but I'd see him at the Carson show selling his stuff. Really super thick 1 inch mounts too. So if you got like some of his stamps were gigantic too. I think I have one or two of them. And so you got a gigantic stamp, but then you have that 1 inch mount, and they're just enormous tools, printing tools basically, rubber stamps like that. Organ engraving and rubber plates. Okay, so this was one of those places that made plates for a lot of different companies out there, and I think a lot of people use them, if I'm not mistaken. U.S. Art Quest. Marks did giant moon. I use all the time. That's so cool. Do you have it on that on his gigantic mount too? You probably do, because I don't think he was around unless you unmounted the rubber. It would be on his like gigantic mount. And I think he did something where he put some kind of like label down, and then he put this laminate over the top of it, or something, a sticker laminate or something like that. But yeah, these magnesium. Okay, so let me see right here. So 11-point magnesium plate. That's the size of plate that I get, or the thickness. 8x10 is $50 now. So an 8x10 these days, I get 9x12s and 6x9s. And that has gone up, let me see, like double, or I'd have to look at it again. I don't use those exact sizes like that, but yeah, those plates, that magnesium has really gone up in price. Some things surprisingly haven't gone up too much, but some things like double, Ornamentum. Ornamentum, was that Tisha and Tracy Moore? Tisha Moore mostly. I can't remember if that was her company. Ornamentum. A lot of cool engravings. The Hawaiian Island Rubber Stamp Company. Like several manufacturers out in Hawaii, and stores as well. I used to love going out to Mililani and Creations Unlimited and teaching out there. The Museum Stamps Cube here. Look at that. The Scream. I forgot the name of that one. Van Gogh, Mona Lisa. Or here's the Great Wave. Someone asked me about that Great Wave. Oh, here's Darcy's Country Folk. Right in our same wing over at the Carson Convention. Always fun. 6th annual Stampers Away cruise. Who was coordinating that? So that was in the Caribbean. But if you went on stamping cruise, they would have that stamping room. You take like 1 or 2 classes, I think. And I think they had a room typically. I don't know about this one specifically, but I think this is generally how it worked. You'd take like 1 or 2 classes during the daytime on these cruises, however many days it was. They do the typical ports of call stuff, but then I think there would be a room where you can go and stamp just in your off time, And I had a chance to do the cruise with to Alaska with Stampadoodle out of Bellingham. They were the coordinators like that. But I couldn't take off like a week, which was needed to fly up there, take the cruise and get back and get, because I was just too busy for that. So I never had the chance to do that. But I think it was like, for a teacher, I think everything was paid. But so I would only have to teach like 1 class or something like that, because they'd have like 4 teachers or something. It might have been 2 classes, like for 2 hours. So it was like 4 hours. And then, they'd say, hey, it'd be nice if you kind of hung out with the rest of the stampers in that stamping room on, some of the off times and stuff like that too, which I would have absolutely been doing, but if I just didn't have the time to do that. But I think one of the complications for me though was most teachers are, most people in this industry are women. So a lot of these retreats and things like that, or the cruise thing, you know what I mean? It's like who we gonna, you know, double up with Kevin. I don't know, unless that what was that other dude that does those fish prints? Fred Mullet or something. You know what I mean? Fred Mullet or something like that. I can't think of any other guy teachers just offhand. Um, yeah, but yeah, that was always one of those types of things. So sometimes when I do these retreats, they'd have to give me my own room in some places, so it would cost the coordinators a little bit more to do that. Anyway, so going around Stamp Oasis, that was a fantastic store out in Las Vegas, and they coordinated like maybe the first two or three stamp conventions in Vegas. So this is like the one. So this is a store out there, right? But then that was the one convention, stamp convention, okay, where, like I said, most stampers out there are women. If they want to go to a show, their husband's like not into it, right? Especially like traveling to a show. No guy doesn't want to go to travel to like Stamp Away or something like that. What's going to do? Unless he's a stamper, but they a lot of times they weren't, or most of the times they weren't. But they say, hey, the convention's out in Vegas. Yeah, I'm going. We're going. They don't have any problem. Okay, we'll drop you off at the show or whatever, and I'll pick you up at 5 or whatever. You know what I mean? They can find things to do in Las Vegas. So you got a lot of guys going to like couples, not at the show, but at in Vegas for the weekend for the show. So okay, so anyways, blabbering on right here. These are the rubber stamp classifieds in the back here for Rubber Stamp Madness. As a manufacturer, you can take out like small little ads like this, but a lot of these miscellaneous things were like, snail mail club. You can, pen pals. People were looking for pen pals and things like that. A lot of times, yeah, there's like actual names and addresses of people, for someone that's looking for a stamp or looking for, just a pen pal or something like that. Or some people would say, hey, I got this, someone's sick or something like that. Can someone send, can we get, some stampers to send some cards to them, to make them feel better, stuff like that. It was kind of cool. Or exchanges. So someone used to do like a Stampscapes exchange. I don't know if they're in this one, but she would advertise in there and send whatever 10 cards, identical cards or something like that, and she would consolidate, and then send those out to whoever sent it in. So there's like interesting stuff like that going on in the classifieds. Occasionally you'd see stuff like vulcanizer for sale or stamp company for sale too, or something like that. So all kinds of things going on in the back of the in the classifieds here. And again, at this point in time, it was really a pretty significant indication of kind of like a lot of the latest news in the industry. Just looking through the pages of this here. So this is the company right here, Coronado Island Stamping, and a lot of their super realistic animal drawings were ones that a lot of people used with Stampscape stamps. So when someone would use something like that, everyone would want to know, okay, what company made those ones? And Coronado Island, they've been out of, they closed shop, I don't know, at some point in time, quite a while ago. So it's like some people are trying to find like these types of designs on eBay. I think that illustrator was Sandra Jordan, right? But really, just really super tight, detail, stippled illustrations in there. So really great stuff. I don't know, that I think the company wanted to sell their designs or license them out or something like that, but I think they were asking too much. They asked me if I wanted to buy them at one point in time. So I didn't ask them the price. I didn't want to insult them, but I think I know someone else that asked them about it, and I think they just said, hey, they were just asking like way too much for the licensing on that. So apparently, this company, I guess, just bought out the copyright, I'm guessing, on those designs and not the illustrator, just having them licensed to make rubber stamps. So Anyway. Oh, here's okay. So this is more of the rubber stamp store listings right here. Something that does not exist like this anymore, unfortunately. All those rubber stamp storefronts. At some point in time, I'm sure this would have to have gotten up to like 2 pages or something like that. I don't know how they would do it if they rotate out new stores or something like that, or something like doing something like that in these pages right here. But there were just so many stores in so many different areas, or worldwide too in many cases. But yeah, just really great stuff in the pages of this 2000 Rubber Stamp Madness right here. Tsukaneko again. They're still out there. Get those inks while you can. I hope they're going to be around, And ClearSnap again right here. What a great company ClearSnap was. This was a company that was doing the Carson show very briefly while I was at a Stamp in the Hand in '87, but then they just turned to all wholesale. They couldn't go to like a retail show anymore. But I remember their booth. They had this gigantic display made up of a foam core board. I think maybe it was in the shape of a rubber stamp or something like that. But I remember seeing this gigantic display from across the room. And I don't remember what it was of. I take it was probably like a gigantic rubber stamp or something like that. But it was really cool. But yeah, you didn't see them anymore. Were you stamps? I was Stampscapes in. Yeah, Fred. Interesting. First, so Fred Mullet up there. One of my favorite pieces of rubber stamp art that I ever saw was when I was teaching at a store. I think it was called Name Droppers or something like that in Washington. And there was this really cool, it was like a floral piece. And it's like he used like just individual pieces of like long rubber or something like that. It wasn't like one stamp. And it was this floral piece. And I think he stamped it on black paper with like, metallic inks or something like that. And it had a lot of character, but I thought that's a really beautiful sample that he did. And he was, he taught up in a lot of those Washington stores being from up there. So that was, really like that. California Stampin', great seller, bought many PSX catalogs. Oh, got it. Yeah, but I was Stampscapes in '93, but I consider 1994 my first full year because that's when I had my first full release of Stampscapes, including a catalog. In '93, I was getting a few stamps made at any given time, and I was selling them, and the money that I would make from those stamps, I would pay for more plates to be made and more designs, and I would have those made up. So if anyone bought any of those designs in '93, like at stores that I was teaching at, they couldn't order them again because I wouldn't make this anymore because I had to put all those profits into like new plates. And then eventually I didn't have to buy any more plates, and I was able to just make stamps from then on. So that was like '94. I asked for one stamp rights, but it was 200. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's quite a bit, that's quite a bit to pay for something like that, The only thing, so in Coronado, the only way that I would be able to do that, because a lot of people already had, if you were a scenic stamper, and if you had been stamping for a decent amount of time, you already had certain designs. So they had been on the market for a long, long time. And the way that I figured it was, manufacturers don't kind of close shop because they're just selling too many stamps. You know what I mean? It's probably sales might have dropped off. So I don't know. I have no idea everyone's individual things, but a lot of people already had it. So some people really wanted it that didn't have it, but I don't know how many new people it was. But if you're going to invest like thousands of dollars in original designs like that, you're going to be really in the hole. And then, unless you're buying the plates as well, like if that $200 came with the plate, it might be a decent, deal or something like that. Because the plate, especially if it's on a one single plate, and if it's like a 9 by 12 plate, that's going to cost like $125 anyways. Or if they have the mold too. So if it included like the mold and the plate, the magnesium, that might have been okay. But to invest like all that speculatively based on you don't know who doesn't have that might want it, it was really hard to tell. So it was just too risky on, something like that. There might be an entire new audience though, and those designs are really excellent though. So yeah. That was fun. Yeah, thanks for joining in here. I learned a lot of things here. I'm glad, glad people were able to jump on here. This impromptu, flip through like this. But yeah, it was super fun to chat here in the chat board here. Fred makes different embossing pattern. He might have. It was a really cool look. It was just like there were all these like leaves or something like that coming out. And I don't know if he put something like some kind of like floral thing in the middle. I can't remember at this point in time, but it was a large piece. And it wouldn't be surprised if it was like colors like that, because I seem to remember there was like different colors. I don't remember it being embossed though, but it could have been. But it was this beautiful piece, and it was right on their counter. He probably did it as a demonstration while he was in there. I have an amazing Stampscapes date of catalog. Do you have one of those original catalogs? I wonder if that was all included. I didn't pursue. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, when I think about that, if that was that $200, so if like a big plate, and if it was all that same image on the one plate, if it was one of those larger designs, like I said, that alone would be $150. I don't know at that time, but maybe it was $150 if you include shipping of a plate and mold, plus the rights to use it. Then the rights to the actual imagery or something like that would be relatively low in that overall price, or you would have had to negotiate that. But if they had it though. But if they had like one plate with a bunch of different designs on it, then you wouldn't be able to really do that. But yeah, that would be pretty high. It just depends on when that offer came around though. I would say like in the 2000s like this, that when there were so many stores like that, you can probably do it. But one of the things is too, on a lot of those stamps like that, if it was the use of that, and you're paying like $200 and you're getting that plate, the thing that you would do is you would probably do it in two different sizes. So, maybe the image flipped left, left and right or something like that, or something like, different sizes. So it would make it a little bit more, it would distribute that cost over the, like two stamps instead, is where people can use different sizes for different types of purposes, or different sizes of cards too. Thanks, Military Mom. Yeah, yeah. Thank you, everyone, for checking it out there. Did you ever sell? Yeah, I did. I do, and kind of did. I sell original pieces sometimes. Like I'll get around to once in a while, photographing my pieces, and I'll throw them up on eBay. I mentioned this before. Someone asked me that in a video recently. Like if I'm getting like a new batch of designs into production or something like that, sometimes I'll sell a bunch of my original pieces, because plates are really expensive. So it helps to fund a bunch of different plates these days. So I'm doing it a little bit differently though, so I don't have to buy so many plates, and I'm just selling things in sets. And then I can just gang a huge amount of stamps onto one plate, where it's like, unless someone just wants one stamp or two stamps out of the entire set, that's not a good deal for them. But if they want like half of them, it's basically like, I don't know, giving the rest of the entire plate, like free of charge or something like that. So if they like 50% of the designs on a stamp plate, it's really a good bargain. And then I'm able to, get less plates instead of having like, 40 designs and having to get like 20 different plates or something like that, you know, which is like crazy these days, especially with the cost of raw materials like in this case magnesium. Oh yeah, yeah. I think that might have been on that. I think that title of that catalog might have been on like a couple of them or something like that. Yeah, there was one catalog that that we got thousands of them printed up, and that's back when we were doing all these shows and stuff like that. These different shows, and we would give out catalogs at the shows, like with every purchase or something like that, or catalogs free with purchase or something like that. So we were going through a gazillion of them. And then when I stopped doing those, and there weren't so many stores around, I was just like, our catalog just online. It just became too expensive to print up those catalogs. Dealing with printers too was nuts. It was always salespeople, and I don't know. They always had this tactic of, okay, you got to buy the original plates, right, for the catalog, so you can run it. But then if you reorder your catalog, you don't have to buy the plates again because we already have those made, for the printing plates. But the cost per catalog would like triple or something like that. So it was such a ripoff. Maybe not these days with so much with digital printing. You can probably have all this stuff like done online. But oh my God, that was a whole fiasco. Printers, label printers too, were nuts to deal with. That was a whole kind of thing, talking about like buying a car or something like that. Deal with like the printing industry salespeople. So crazy. Glad you like that Stampscapes catalog. Yeah, so we were talking about this as a little kind of show and tell going back in time or something like that. Like I said, people are on Facebook, or if you're not and you're kind of curious about it, check out Rubber Stamping History, the group. It's just a public group. And if you can take photographs of, like catalogs or, a couple inside pages or something like that, or if you see anything kind of interesting, post it in that group. And, it seems like everyone loves to see it, and there's so little of it out there, on the internet, just in general. Sometimes there's like companies and entities and conventions that were crazy busy back in the day, but there's like zero information on them. It'd be really curious to see. I wish there was a little bit more, but when we were at conventions, we weren't busy like going around documenting it. We were going around like booths to booths, or everyone was like super busy at them. So it's like, and like I said, back in these days, everyone wasn't carrying around a camera with them, with their phones. So yeah, there's so little information. So we gotta take a picture of like old catalogs and stuff like that and post it like in a Rubber Stamping History Facebook group. All right, everyone. Hope you have a great rest of evening, and hope you have a great week. We'll have to do one of these again sometime. We'll plan it out. I'll like post it or something like that, and we can have a chat about the good old days of rubber stamping and the evolution of it, and what's happening like today with these ones too. So I found out some really good information today here. I just added the notification bell. Yeah, add the notification bell if you feel so inclined. And when I jump on with these impromptu live streams, you get a notification of it. So, yeah. All right, thanks again, everyone. Great seeing you. Hope to see you on the next one.